Let's turn our attention to Omicron, which is spreading fast around the world. The Netherlands has gone into lockdown, closing schools and non-essential shops and limiting the number of visitors allowed into households. That's just one of the developments here in Europe. A number of governments across Europe set to meet this week to think about whether further measures are required. And certain travel restrictions have been imposed on those from the UK. Sam Fazeli from Bloomberg Intelligence joins us now. Sam, bring us up to date then. The Netherlands, I mentioned that one. What else are we seeing across Europe in terms of policy response to Omicron? Well, it's actually Delta and Omicron.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we keep talking about Omicron, but Delta is still the predominant variant that's circulating. And I think you've seen Austria was the first who, even before Omicron, went for a pretty hard lockdown, and it made a big difference, which of course is no surprise. This is one lesson we've learned all along, that if you keep people apart, the virus can't spread as well. So the Netherlands did that. I'm not sure whether the rest of Europe has got the appetite for a major lockdown. I really don't sense, for instance, I'm in France right now, that the French are at all interested. Maybe their government doesn't care, but it doesn't sound like they're going for that. They're just trying to tuck in at the edges to try and make sure that people are responsible. So maybe you'll get a restriction on the number of people who get together indoors, but I don't know if that can be enforced. Generally going in the direction of more restrictions, but not very severe.
Yes, I mean, changing what people do with their day-to-day life would be a lot easier in January, politically a lot more palatable perhaps in January than just before Christmas, just before the festive season. What can we expect from antiviral pills, Sam? Is there some news flow around this, away from the Omicron fight on the front line? How are hospitals managing, and what can we expect from these pills?
Yeah, so Pfizer held a call on Friday, which is the company that's got so far out of the two drugs, the more effective drug. When they reported more data for their full trial, the data didn't get worse, which was the case for the Merck drug, in terms of efficacy. So that's going to be a really meaningful aid in managing the severity of disease. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be helpful over the next few weeks and possibly even into Q1. They're expecting to make about 30 million courses, that's 5 days worth of drug, for the first half of 2022. So that would probably help some of the governments in Europe, US, it's obviously. But the question is, I don't think it would really help much for the Omicron wave currently. So, but very hopeful on that drug.
OK, so very hopeful, but in the longer term, there's a lot of debate, and I see contrasting headlines crossing the Bloomberg and other media all the time about the extent to which Omicron is milder. I suppose it's very difficult to say, because you might be talking about people who've had no vaccine, 1, 2, 3 vaccines, previous infection, and trying to work your way through where that leaves us in terms of whether it is overall a milder variant. Very difficult.
Absolutely right. Anna, you've mentioned all of those things. One little thing that we have to also consider is that different countries have had, specifically South Africa, has had a different wave. They had a wave of the beta variant. Does that make a difference to the level of type of immunity they have versus Omicron? Time will tell. But I continue to see data, and they had another press conference on Friday, which I'm hopefully going to try and write up for my Bloomberg Intelligence clients, is that we've got, again, continued indications that at least in that country, the current wave is looking less severe. But we've already seen that with the Delta wave, even in the UK, which we wrote up on Friday. You see severity of hospitalizations decoupling. So this is, I think, a continuation of a trend we've seen. The worry with Omicron, Anna, is how quickly it infects and how many people it infects.